This is my 1968 Ford Mustang, same as Steve McQueen drove in Bullet. I rebuilt it myself, all by hand. It is my secret weekend lover. The engine has sensors that monitor it all as I drive through the hills looking for something to fix. Little white cross is passing, flowers wilting round their base. The last been reached, again I guess, by another silent man. The last been reached, again I guess, by another silent man. They sacked Brian today, 33 years on the job. One little mistake and now he's gone. A few months ago they sacked Matt the same way, marched him through the staff room like a criminal. I wanted to say something but you can't, or if you want to survive, then you've got to learn somehow to find the courage to be just another silent man. Just another silent man. There are so many curves on this mountain road, so many of them are blind, but my car eats them all, for there is nothing wrong. I guess today is the day she no longer needs me. I've been one to call Brian, look mate, it's not like I don't care, but what can I as one man do? Surely you understand, things are not like they were before. To try and keep your job now, somehow you have to learn to be just another silent man. This land is changing, this is a fast changing land. Yeah, I get it, okay. I read the memo, I understand. You wanna say something now, in fact you just wanna scream, but you know that you can't, for if you wanna survive, then mate, you're gonna have to find the courage to be just another silent man. Little white crosses passing by, wilted flowers drying around their base. The last been reached, again I guess, by another silent man. The last been reached, again I guess, by another silent man.
So before I bring my guest in, what do you think of this? This is a bee design. It's a bee design of an Australian blue bee, which is more has more black on it. But we're looking for a symbol of freedom, and I've put this up today on the internet, on Instagram and Twitter. It's going really well. And the thing about these blue bees, they don't follow queens. They don't do hives, and they're all about vibration. They vibrate to get the pollen out of flower, and they get the pollen out of native flowers differently from other bees. So this is an Australian legend, really. This little blue bee, and we're wondering about having that as a symbol of freedom because with nothing else on it, just the blue bee. So have a think about it and let us know. Anyway, I'm going to get straight on to our guest. This is Wayne Wigham. All I'll tell you is he used to be a rugby player, but for 18 years, he has been touring the country trying to save people's lives, trying to prevent people, men and women, uh, from killing themselves. And he's done over 1,000 presentations. So I just want to hear about the journey of this great activist. So here he is. This is a big welcome to Wayne Wigham. G'day, Wayne. How you doing?
G'day, Michael. Thanks for having me, mate. And hello, everybody.
Now, let's start. Let's go start. Were you born in Sydney?
Born in Sydney, born in North Ryde, which was a returned serviceman's area. So it was,
Okay.
pretty rough and tough growing up. Yeah.
So it was surrounded by colourful characters, in other words.
Yeah, and, in hindsight, there was a lot of post-traumatic stress, a lot of alcoholism,
yeah.
Probably a lot of violence, And now I know what I know. I really bleed for those people because there was just no help for anyone back then. They knew nothing about it. So it makes a lot of sense to me now. I know, what was happening there.
Yeah.
But, it was a good life. But, I was diagnosed with depression when I was 6. And there was no help back then. So growing up in an area like that when you're a bit of a, I was running away from school, crying for no reason. So I had a pretty tough couple of first years at school. But it was interesting. So I know what it's like for young ones to go through anxiety and depression when you don't know what to do and you can't understand it. Yeah. Ended up.
So how did you get into the rugby?
Look, on one side of me was a really quiet little child, and the other one, you put a football in my arm, and I just took to it like a duck to water. My dad first got me playing rugby union. He passed away when I was 10, and then to really survive in the district where I grew up, if you're part of the rugby league team, you're kind of protected, and everyone looked after you. So I jumped to rugby league, and I just turned out, I just had a bit of natural ability, a bit of luck, and ended up getting graded with the Tigers when I was 17. Played in the first grade game at 18. I had 10 years in the first grade.
Didn't you have 167 games? Is that what I read?
Yeah, played for 167 first grade games, and I was a leading try scorer in the NRL one year. But even all through that, I still had the dark cloud over my shoulder. I thought I was an evil, selfish person because how could I be sad when I'm a football star and everything's going so well? And I did not understand why I felt like that. That can lead to self-hatred if you don't know what it is.
Do you understand now?
Oh, look, I understand when we are what we are. Look, I understand that depression and anxiety is an illness. That's the main thing. We've all got to accept that. It's new science. I know that, 20, 30 years ago, pull your socks up, get up with it. But we were wrong. I've seen the science. I've lived it. When I see the new science and the understanding, I can relate it to what I went through. And what I went through, just about everyone I know and met in this game who's been through depression and anxiety. We could sit down and have a coffee and be within a split match of our feelings. So that's why I know it's an illness. And my main message for this, we've got 64% of people don't seek help. And that's why one of the big reasons we don't have we have people, our friends, suiciding and in bad ways. If we can turn this around and say, well, get help like you would for physical pain, we can save men, we can save women, we can save us all. But people simply won't believe it. 64% don't get help. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is crazy. So how did you go from rugby to suicide prevention?
Well, after rugby, I was in the rescue squad in the fire brigade for 10 years.
Oh,
But by
wow.
then I was self-medicating heavily, which if you live with this illness for long enough, you will mostly self-medicated. I
Yeah.
turned to the drink for a while.
Yeah.
Then, I was
G'day,
probably
Brian.
stoned. I was self-medicating on the marijuana, lost my marriage, ended up in 5 public psych wards. I kept on getting misdiagnosed, so correct diagnosis is really important. The bloke at the Black Dog ended up diagnosing me correctly. It was only small back then. I just happened to be in them one day, and someone up in Mackay in the mines wanted a lived experience speaker, and I don't think they had anyone. And I was just around, and I thought, I need a mission. I went, I'll do it. And next I ended up living on a mining camp in west of Mackay for 3 days, and doing the underground and open cut. So it was really different back then. Didn't know what to face, didn't know how to do it, didn't have any experience in it. But
Yeah,
I loved it.
when you went there, tell us
Yeah.
your first few shows or first few presentations. You must have been really nervous. How did you cope? How did you do it? How did you approach it?
Well, I 100% knew that I was right, what I was talking about. I 100% knew that I had to talk someone into getting help at the least. So I believed what I believed. I knew we had to spread it. I think it's the most masculine thing you can ever do, by the way, because I'll just say this, and I've always said this, one of the best things that happened to me when I did get help, my young bloke, he came up and said, Dad, I've been struggling a bit too, because you went and got help. I got help. So even if I copped a bit of stigma, I copped a hit for the family. You go and then you set the example for the family. We got to, so I knew that I did it. So I just got up, I got my shoulders out and just hit them as best I could. And you know what? Right from the start, men, and I've done lots of women since and they're the same, but right from the start, 95% of the blokes that I did in the mining camp listened and knew of themselves or someone else who was suffering. A couple of times I've had this, but one in the mining camp, some bloke called me a soft cock for being there and talking about this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then another big bloke got up, mate. He was, big, muscly, tatted up, and he went, no. He said, I got a shotgun and was thinking of using it last Saturday night. So men will open up when you go out there, and I've done country towns.
That is a great scene, man. That's a scene from a movie.
Oh, look, there was
man.
Look, and that happened once again. I had my other story that blows me away is, I was in a country town, and afterwards you hang around. After you do your talk, you're supposed to hang around and haven't yarned anybody and point them in the right direction. Now they tell you their story, and my job is, I'm not a counsellor. My job is, mate, I've been there a bit, and then point them in the right direction. Yeah. Anyway, they said this bloke in the car park wanted to see me, because a lot of people are embarrassed to ask for help in front of people.
Yeah.
And when I got out there, same thing. He said, I was going to blow my head off tonight. I heard this was on the radio, and I'm here. And from there, we got when we do these shows, we have local agencies like Mission or Indigenous Health or Rural and Remote Health. So we have people there that can wrap around people straight away.
Yeah, great.
So I've seen lived experience trying to talk people to get help. It works. But I just must say this. I tell you, I've been travelling around the country towns for 10 years. The people that work in community and mental health on the ground are the superheroes of our society. They're legends. I can't just give them big enough rap, because the way they hold the place together, with little resources, and no one really listens to them that much about what they think's going on. Yeah. Anyway, just know that they are the superstars, and
Can I just ask you though? 18 years on the ground, in this trench. Why is it? Do you think that in this country we're told how lucky we are, how wealthy we are, how privileged we are? Why do we have such a large suicide problem?
Well, I'll just concentrate on the male side, because that's where I am. But look, one thing, I got the consistency. So for the last 5, 6, 7 years, men are really resentful, right? There's a real resentful that we have been left behind by society. They believe that, for instance, if you're domestic violence, it's always stop domestic violence against women and children, but not men. But 25% of victims are men. Now there's just no excuse for that. As I said, if it was only 25% of women, we wouldn't just do stop domestic violence against men and children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's resent for that. And there is, honestly, I'm surprised, and I've found it hard at times. There is resentment about that, toxic. We're all toxic. We're all abusers. We all know somebody who's committing domestic violence, but we hide it. So we've been throwing all these myths at it, and the average punter's just doing their best to survive. Yeah, so that has got to us. And obviously, I got punched in the head by one of my old partners, and she then rang the police, and I got taken to jail. So if you're suffering domestic violence for something,
and you're driving along, but it's just such a joke. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's just the way it is. But if you're, and a lot of men and women, emotional abuse, we talk about it, but it's epidemic, but we don't even say what it is. But if you're driving along in the car and you're getting abused or suffering domestic violence, and then you hear stop it against women and children, but you're not included. And we all know a lot of men, and we know that men break up. A lot of men don't handle relationship breakups. We should be just attacking that. We know that a lot of men die through financial difficult times, and that can come with relationship. We should just be going, bang, boys, this is what's going to happen. This is how may you feel. Normalise it. Because we're men of us been through, we're human. We're going to go through the same stuff. Anything you're feeling is not weird.
So just to go a little bit slower. So what you're saying is we should normalise breakups. Like, it's okay if you break up, this shit happens. You'll find someone else, rather than, oh, this is it. Somehow you failed as a man, you failed the relationship, you're useless, leave us. You know what I mean?
The fact is 50% of marriages break up. And I really struggle, but I'm just saying this is what helped me through. And then, 50% of marriages break up. Well, it didn't mean I was a bad man, didn't try my best. I'm not, whatever. And, whatever happened to you. And so you just got to know that. You're like, you don't take it, I hate to say, but we can't take it so personally. Yeah. I've seen better men than me get left, and I've seen great women get left. So you've got to, and then we talk about how it makes us feel. You know what I mean? And we talk about these things. And, if you're going through fighting to see your kids, well, we should be saying that's a dangerous time instead of burying it. It should be, but we seem to bury things. Equality should mean, and I want equality for all. I reckon men and women need to sit down, forget the past. Sorry. We need to map out a really equal way forward that makes it great for future boys and future girls, where it is. So there's no things like, domestic violence isn't mentioned, or we ignore 90% of sexual abuse allegations are found not guilty, right? But you'll read about it's not fair that there should be greater prosecutions, right? Now, that may be true, right? But even so, you've got that other mass percentage of men who had to go through that and were not guilty, and we're losing men there. We know that.
It doesn't matter if you're not guilty. If you're accused, I've been through this, you're accused, that's it. You're guilty.
And even if you get proven.
That's why men are terrified of being accused. They're not terrified of, the court thing is terrifying as well, but just the accusation is terrifying.
Well, that's great. It is. We are careful, but if we know that when you are accused that there's a big chance that you might do some self-harm or turn to something wrong, then we should be talking about that. And that doesn't negatively affect, and I say spend as much money on helping women, do whatever we can, but we should not do one for the other. We've got to do it together. And then the resentment will go, and then we'll be in a better place mentally, all of us, instead of this adversary, can't help one because that's against the other. And it's really hard to get that through. And the people that, seem to be running the game, it's not rocket science. Fix what we've got in front of us and then research to find better things for the future. And we know really what about 60% of suicides come from, both in men and women. But so we research to find out what the other 40% we don't understand, but we just really hit the 60% we know now instead of dancing around it. in a fair way that makes it good for everyone. That's what I'm trying to do.
Well, we know, from what I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Sunday afternoon is usually the time where we lose the most men, because they've dropped their kids off from a failed marriage. They drop their kids back, and then they just leave. Is that correct?
Well, I really don't know. I've heard things like that, but that would not surprise me. Yeah, and again, even the things that men go through with that, it's whatever one feels, most of us will be within an inch of each other. But sometimes when your brain plays tricks on you and you're feeling all things, you personalize it, think it's just you. But if you know this is normal for me as a man to feel like this, I can don't hate on myself, don't think I'm weak, and at least acknowledgement. Know the enemy is to defeat the enemy, and normalize it. So we should be getting men in that position talking. Now, the men's clubs, there's so many men's groups coming up, which is wonderful. But then you question why is there that many? Because we've got nowhere to turn in a lot of areas. So it's a need to look after each other, because we don't feel, and that's what's on the road, And, and even like with the domestic violence and all those other things we've mentioned, I have brought it up to a couple of politicians, and they both tell me that, for votes, looking after blokes is not a great thing, but we need a couple of powerful women to run the ball up for us to make things really equal, which is interesting. And from my experience, I can see that unfortunately, I think we do need some women to run the ball up, because that will take them away from just, if we say something, somehow we're taking away for the need to protect or help women, which is just not what we want.
Do you think that's the case, or do you think that's a fear of that? And we just need some man who can actually stand the attacks that he will receive for defending men. Because as soon as someone gets up and starts defending men, they will get attacked. There's that.
Absolutely.
What's that podcaster? The Australian female podcaster. No. She's a man hater. She actually says pure white males should be killed.
Yeah.
Now, if I said that about women, I'd probably have a police officer arresting me. But for some reason, Clementine Ford, she's allowed to spruik. Yeah, but that's what she spruiks on major things. She used to actually work for a major newspaper and spruik this, the Australian, I think. This is what I'm saying. This resonates somewhere in men. Men, we talked before coming on, that men are actually quite simple creatures in the way that their needs are to be wanted, needed, to have purpose. And at the moment, our society is not offering purpose to anybody, but especially not to men. We are toxic masculinity. We're destroying the environment. It's most men know over 50. If you want to get a job over 50 and you're white, let's be honest, good fucking luck, And that's the truth. When I was a tram driver, I used to have men your age ask me how to become a tram driver, and I used to go grow a vagina, because they would hire 9 women for 1 man. The trains were doing the same. So basically, society on every level is going, your time is gone. And I used to be in the theatre. I had a La Mama Theatre. Actually, someone in La Mama Theatre in Melbourne said, we don't want the stories of mature white males anymore. Your era is over.
Well, there is that attitude. But look, 98% of women and 98% of men, we're on the same page here. We want to see better futures for us, our kids, together.
They want healthy men.
But it seems that those that do get attacked, it must be just a small number, because the rest of us want true fairness for all.
Yeah.
But that small number, God, they do have destroyed some people, haven't they? And we just got to stand up. Men and women have got to stand up together.
Like saying in the schools, I remember my son came home when he was 14 and said to me, you're only my father by name. I don't have to do anything you say anymore. You've got no power over me whatsoever. The school had taught him that.
What can you say?
So I'm 14. No, you say that, but he's 14. And suddenly I have no nothing as a father. I am nothing. I'm just there to bring in some money, and that's what it is. And so men lose purpose. Why am I here? And I used to work with these men in every job I've done, and you'd see these men working 6 or 7 days a week sometimes to provide for their families, only to feel like they were at work simply because their brothers were at work and they enjoyed working with their brothers, because when they got home, they felt unwanted. And so, and there was even a load of single men there. Like, I think there was 150 guys. There was about 30 single guys. They didn't even want to get in relationships because they were so over the inequality of it. And so we're going to talk about this. Let's fucking talk about it. Otherwise, what's the point? You know what I
Just
mean?
be
And
honest.
so if you devalue human beings, eventually some of those human beings who don't have a strong sense of themselves or character will leave us, and we'll be left with the wound. And these wounds, when someone leaves us, these wounds do not heal. I've been at these suicide survivors gatherings where people have lost people 30 or 40 years ago and they still sob. The pain is that intense. You must have come across that.
Well, look, I nearly went down that track myself too, so I know how poisonous your mind is when you get to a point like that. It's your brain just tells you you're absolutely worthless, and and which is one of the reasons we've got to be so passionate about people seeking help. I always say, who do you have the most conversations with in your life? The answer is yourself. Well, if your voices are telling you bad things about yourself, depression, anxiety is a filthy, rotten liar. And if you don't get help, you'll begin those lies, to believe those lies about yourself. And that really simplifies it. It's a really good way to bring it up to your kids, let them know that everyone has self-talk, what I've got to do tomorrow, school, homework. But if you're saying they're ugly, no good, no one likes them, just say that's an illness. You tell me straight away. It's a very simplistic way to introduce it, because that's really what can happen. If you don't get help, you begin to believe, those negatives you tell yourself. And then, self-prophesizing. So no, I understand it. And look, it's horrific. Again, if we can, every person we get to seek help, that's a victory. But the thing is too, I just want to say this last one thing. Look, if you go to the gym and you want to get biceps and the personal trainer tells you got to do bicep curls, then you'll get them. If you do seek help and you go see a professional and you go see a psychologist, you've got to do what they tell you to do. It's like training, that's the training you've got to do. That's the rehab you've got to do. So it's very much physical rehab and mental rehab. You've got to do the work and then you'll get the muscle. A lot of people go get help and they just give up too quickly, for whatever you may need. The other thing is too, when you do struggle, 90% of depressions are from circumstances, or when you have no hope, or when you get smashed by life, by too many things. Like, life is a game. If it was, it'd be rugby league. Everyone's going to get smashed, and that's the way it is. And about 10% of depressions are chemical. Got chemical imbalances that causes you sadness, but the pain from both is the same. If you're struggling, you never say, well, I don't have any right because I've got more money, better life than Billy down the road. Your pain is relevant. Your pain is real. I would rather you break both my legs and put me out in the paddock for a month and go through that again. So please, don't think your pain's not real. You're soldiers if you're going through it, but, set the example, take the hit, do it, and you'll get someone else. And it might be someone close to you that you'll follow you up. It's a real brave thing to do for the men and women out there, masculine, feminine. That's what we've got to do. That's really, and we've got to get hope back in the world, as you said. Stop all the negativity.
Don't you think that we grew up in a society where sort of if you are suffering or depressed or pain, there's something wrong, like you said. But also you learn from suffering. You don't learn from happy days. We don't have, we wouldn't have a tragic, any of our love songs, like Flame Trees by Cold Chisel. We wouldn't have that if the guy had been happy. The humans do go through, even Dr. Seuss taught us that. We have up and down days, but the depression can take over and you can't escape from it. And then suddenly it's almost like, it's like you've got your own abusive partner within you, your own thoughts. telling you, and that's why, like you said, 64% of men or people don't seek help. And I wonder why you think that is the case. What is it, because they've already decided it's too late, or they don't want to bother anyone, or why do you think that is the case from your time on the road?
Well, I still think they don't still believe it's an illness. It's still some form of weakness, and they still can't. And I think even to admit that you might need help, it's still got something on your own mind, a negative connotation that you are mental or something. I really, I think it seems to be that, the self-stigma, and just admitting that you might, and it's like having depression is like a mental illness, like the old days when you'd end up, one flew over the cuckoo's nest. So look, I was born with depression. I could have been born with an illness that, I died at 10 from something. It's just an illness. There's no shame. If you take
No, there's no shame. But how do you tell
smart.
apart from a day when you're just down and depression? What's the difference between a long-term inescapable depression and just a few days where you're just feeling crap? And at the moment, there's so much cost of living. The bozo prime minister smiling as everything's fine. The world seems crazy. People are watching Israel and Palestine and the war and climate change. So there's a huge amount of pressure to feel down. How do you differentiate between being down for a few days because of real events and actually a long-term depression, which is something else?
Well, they would say that, as you said, you might get down for 3 or 4 days here and there, and that is natural. But if you kind of go 2 or 3 weeks and you find it hard to get out of bed, shower, taking no joy in what you normally enjoy doing, finding it hard to open up your emails, just function, overtired. If you're feeling that sad and that down for more than a few weeks, then go and get help. And the quicker you do, the quicker your brain can get wired into misery, but you can unwire it, and a lot of athletes have known that for a long time, but now we do know that, with depression is the way you think, and how you view things. Look, life is hard, so you do have to learn how to deal with things. And you're right, everything I went through, like it was, I'll be honest, a lot of it was brutal, but it's made me the man I am today. I got wisdom from it. I'm a better man for it. And you do weigh things. And look, we all go through tough things, but sometimes, it's like a boxer. Sometimes you throw the white towel and go and get help and fight another day. If you're struggling, you're getting by too many things at once, then it's just natural to go into a depressive or anxious state almost for some of us.
Yeah.
You get help, you learn how to deal with it, and you'll get back to a good life. I think the other reason people don't do it is I don't think they really believe that they can get well. That's just my thought. They haven't got a belief
I see. That's interesting. You think it's unsolvable. So they think
that, they haven't got faith. It's almost like they're so used to it, they can't imagine that it could actually work. That's just an observation.
Especially in a case like yours. I mean, going back, here you are, you're a rugby star. And so everyone would say, you've got no right to be sad. Look at you, you're a star. So you don't have a right to be sad. So you don't even have a right to ask for help, because people are going, what do you need help for? You're a star, man.
And people are that hard on themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame, because look, I've been a professional athlete, 10 years. Life itself is harder than being a professional athlete. And any job I've had is harder than being a professional athlete. But if you go and lecture or go and talk to 200 NRL players and you said, who's struggling and 60 got up, then they'd all get hugged, because they accept that the game can do your head in sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, if the game of life and every job I've ever had's harder, that's what we should be like. The game of life and our work can do our heads in every now and then. We should be hugging each other when we get help, because I promise you, I've asked a lot of professional athletes that. I want you to take that aboard. They hug each other when they get help, because they've accepted the game's tough. We should be doing the same whatever we do. That's the truth of it.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, look, that's right. There's times in my past where I've had some success, say in the theater, and then you're depressed, and you do feel, and so you do feel I don't have a right to ask for help, because it doesn't make sense that I'm like this. And I noticed that with a lot of really famous actors who take their own lives. Everyone's going, why would you do that? you've got fame, you've got money, you've got everything that we've been told you need to be happy, and that you decide to leave us, you know?
That's why the new education or the new technologies understanding that your brain, you can have everything, but you can still go into a depression. So to
Yeah.
have the knowledge that that's not unnatural. There's reasons why I am this, even though I've got every possible thing I could ever want. But you can still be depressed. You
Yeah.
can still be anxious. So
Yeah.
everyone has a right to get help. Your pain is real, and if you're thinking that you have no right because of what you have, or that you're doing better than Billy down the road, and so how could you get help? That's just not the way it is. That's like if I do a knee injury, I don't get help because I'm better off than Billy down the road. It really
Yeah.
is. It is it. That's the truth. And if we don't
Yeah.
accept that truth, then we can't help ourselves and we can't help our youth. And I would think that's a beautiful thing, to take the hit and accept it and then pass it down to the next generations as best we can. Because they're going to be learning it at schools and that a little bit.
Yeah.
They'll be passing it up. So it'd be good if you could lead the way. And whoever was on here, we're all elders to somebody.
Yeah. Because I met a funeral director who quit the job because in his area there was a lot of these McMansions, these huge new housing estates, all these, and he couldn't hack the amount of men he was picking up. And he said the reason they left us was that enormous mortgages. They were in jobs that they didn't feel had any purpose. They were just, shit kicking jobs. That's how they felt. And I think they felt so trapped that just talking to someone wasn't going to fix it. They needed to get out of this mortgage or pay it off or this. And so I wonder if this is also, men are very pragmatic and just go, well, what are you going to do? You're going to talk to me? What are you going to talk about? I need, I've got the pressure of this multi-million-dollar mortgage and stuff like this. Have you noticed any of that they just feel that there's no point?
Well, we do tend to overextend, on the chase for opportunity. I think that's a mistake that has probably been passed on for generation. Get a little smaller house and don't kill yourself along the way. So I'm hoping, but it's hard these days, as you said. But yeah, I mean,
everything
in
Sydney.
that's why the castles
letterbox costs you $1 million in Sydney.
Yeah, so I think putting less expectation. The one look, I was in the fire brigade when my boys were little, so my ex could work a few days a week, and I had the kids, and I didn't know at the time, but in hindsight, it was the best thing ever happened to me. So because that's when you bond with your kids, and look, that's a once in a lifetime if you do go down that track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that there's new partnerships and that women and men share things, because for men, that's an experience that if you can have it, I realise looking back now that was one of the best things. I didn't know at the time, but I'm so glad now. And so I see a lot more men, in the new way, do have more time with their kids, and that's one good purpose,
Mm.
Yeah. And, good purpose, just say, well, whatever else I try my best at, I'll be a good dad, And
Well, I love the fact that you found purpose from your pain. So you've been through this pain, and yet here you are using it to save lives. It's a beautiful
saved me,
thing,
mate, too.
It
saved me too, because I just, I'd been through a lot of bad time, and I was looking for something too. And it was when that happened. Look, and in the rugby league circles, when I ended up in a bad way, everyone knew there was no chance I was going to keep my whole, whatever, all the things I went through secret. So anyone I knew anyway. And I went, oh, bugger, if everyone knows anyway, I'll go out. I'm going to stand tall, put my shoulders back. I don't care what they call me. I'm going to do it. So it gave me a purpose. So it saved me too. A lot of people say that when they go through bad things, it helps them to do something with it. And I do need a mission, so I needed a mission. I always have, and that gives me a best chance to be
talking about, though, going back, what you said about you didn't care what people thought about you. I've been telling people, like, you notice kids before they go to school, they're usually the star of the house. And when they go to school, they pick up a prison guard, which is, what will other people think if I do this? And so they're constantly filtering, if I do this, if I say this, if I wear this, what will my friends think? What will the other kids think? It can take a lot of people. Sometimes no one ever gets rid of this prison guard. But one of the first goals I would like to see people taught is F him off. F that person off, because this person doesn't do you any favors. It just imprisons who you naturally are from the rest of the world. So you
That's
can
torture.
actually, because the one thing I've noticed when I was doing suicide prevention play, the people that talked to me were going, they had all these men that had taken their lives and no one knew why. They got, we don't know. They didn't even know, we don't know. So this man or woman that left us were so alone within themselves that literally maybe no one even knew who they actually were, and what pain they were going through, that they took that thing to leave us. So this is, I know Mother Teresa, when she came here in the 80s, I think, said Australia was a spiritual desert. And that's what she said about Australia. And so I just wonder if these are the lessons we have to sort of start teaching our younger people. Don't worry what other people think of you. Just be you.
Well,
You're a
that's massive.
special, wonderful human being. Just
That's
be
massive.
you.
What you just said is massive. Like the old saying was that if you care what someone thinks, then you give them power over you. And
Yeah,
why would you give that? Why does that person's opinion mean anything? And it doesn't.
that's right.
And I learned that probably playing rugby league. When you have a bad game, you can cop you can cop a hard time sometimes. So
Yeah,
I
I
really
bet.
learned quickly, and I really learned quickly, that we got to teach our kids that, don't give them power, don't let them win. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I've got my problems, but that's one thing I'm free of.
Oh, yeah, me
Really
too,
don't
mate.
care.
I don't care anymore. I literally
Yeah,
don't care.
well, you shouldn't, because everyone's a good person. Everyone's got people that cares about them. The rest you don't
Yeah.
worry about. But I know, I see people like that. I bleed for them. It's a torture, and it's sad, and it's just it's waste of time. It's just causing them grief, and I hate seeing people in grief. But that's learning about the head trip of it too. So when you do
Yeah.
seek help, you learn about, and even if you do a bit of reading now, and to learn about your brain and how it works, and to normalize yourself and understand. But yeah, thinking about what other people think of you all the time, it is epidemic. It's making people lose their personalities.
Yes.
It's just characters aren't around. Now I notice that people are not, hide their true character in case someone judges them badly. So,
Yeah, we're missing a
and
lot of
that's sad.
larrikins. Yeah. Can I ask you another question though? Now, this is hats off to the government, which you don't hear this much show, but there's been a lot of money put towards suicide prevention. I know ScoMo put out a fortune and stuff, but even though there's all this money going out there, I mean, it's enormous amount of money. Our suicide rate is still high. So, what do you think is failing, or what do you think, in your opinion, we could do better? That's not putting them down, but it's what you think maybe we could do better, or a different approach.
Well, it really is just a lot of what we've talked about, normalizing the things for men and women, and talking about the things we know are leading to that kind of grief now, very specifically, together, without meaning harm to the other side. We've got to attack the things that we see now. Now, 65% of people don't, or 4% of people, isn't, to me, maybe it's above my pay bracket, but if you give up on that, we're not going anywhere. You can develop all the things and talk
100%.
about everything. Yeah, well, mate, really. But a lot of the money goes to research, or to academics, or to have meetings, or to talk about, and I cannot go, I've tried to take to places we should be acting with men with breakups, the things we've talked about tonight, I get removed. I don't know why. Well, they won't listen. It's almost, I think a lot of the people that seem to control, I really don't know, but people are scared to lose their funding if they start talking, it seems to me. But I'm just a punter on the road, like.
So they can't actually talk about the real problem in case they lose their funding.
Oh, look, I don't know, mate. I'm just a punter on the road.
That's an opinion.
But, to me, I can't, because I don't know else why. And when I go to say to them, it's like, they don't say it, but they back away.
Yeah.
And then when you put that together with that a couple of pollies said that we need strong women to do it. And, we've seen people like Bettina Arndt and, I've never heard her say a bad thing about women. She pushes men, but she got attacked. And, so it's,
the trouble with that, though?
It's only a small percentage.
Yeah. The trouble with what you're saying, though, is it's like, say, when the feminist movement was starting with the suffragettes, it'd be like telling the women, you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to have a man to liberate you. Now, women, if you said that, women would lose their shit. No offense. And they'd have a right to lose their shit. So to me, don't you feel in reality, the women have come from a place like basically when the suffragettes started, when feminists started, women were oppressed. They were. And they changed that. They came up and that has changed. I remember when I was young, I agreed with them. I thought they had a right to define their rights for themselves, the rights of women. They got the right to vote and stuff like this. I think it is happening with these men's groups, but we need to start defining for ourselves what a man is. What's our purpose here? I can't stand it when a woman tells me this is what you got to be a real man. No, you just concentrate on your own gender. We'll decide. I do fear, and this was from a man from Uzbekistan I interviewed, and he said what he thinks the problem in Australia is there's you're losing the intergenerational teaching where the grandfather teaches the grandson how to be a man and the father and this. So you're learning and not learning from lessons, sitting down from example. There's your grandfather. You learn from him and stuff like this. And he said that's what's missing. So boys are basically adrift. I think the writer of Fight Club said in America, there were so many broken families in America that they had literally a generation of men who were brought up by women because there was no men around. And so I wonder how much of this can be done from just men taking the responsibility of actually going, who are we? Why are we here? We are different from women, but in what way? What's our purpose? Is it simply to open jars that a woman can't open? Or is there more to us? There's something more here than just fighting for a job that anyone can do. You know what I mean? What's the purpose of being a man on it now? I think that's a really interesting question. I don't have the answer, but
I know there's people going into schools talking about what it means to be a boy. But look, that is a question to have a few people around to talk about. What a man is, and it'd be an interesting one. But I've got my beliefs. You have yours, and who knows these days? But I just think you be hard when you need to, you be soft when you can, and you be kind, and then you work and do what you have to do, and that's have a purpose. And I don't think it. Depression had me crying on the ground like a little baby, and but I'd stand in front of a bikie gang and fight for the death if I had to at the same time I was crying. So it doesn't make you weak or that's a man. You can cry, you can hug, but you can be soft. You can put your hand up and say you're ill. That's how I laugh, right? Myself.
Because we have grown up in the era where say it's okay for men to cry, but I do say this when I'm at gatherings. Say you're a woman and you're married and he's the driver and you've got 2 kids in the back and a dog and you're driving along the Nullarbor in the middle of the night and it's pouring with rain and you hit a kangaroo and get a flat tire. Now, do you want your man to sob behind the wheel and say that his father didn't love him, or do you want to get out in the rain and fix the tire so we can get going?
Well, that's it. But you know what? You can feel your father didn't love you, but you'll still get out and fix the tire. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Because you get off the deck. Men, everybody's brave. Every day, everyone's brave. But that's and you just, no matter what you struggle with, you still do it. And women, you just keep marching. And that's life. We've got to keep marching to the best of our ability. But the more you know and the more you understand about how you feel, and that everything I get hit with is kind of a normal human reaction and not me being weak or anything. This is what to expect almost under these. Well, that makes you can deal with it. We've got to learn to deal with these things and understand us and not put the hate on us. And knowledge, know what my brain does. like we know what our knee does. It's getting like that. And that once you understand what's happening to you, I can fight it because I understand it. I've accepted it. And if I didn't, I'd be gone. I'd be struggling. I would be still laying in bed, And I knew how long it took me. So it's interesting. And, men, we've got to start talking about what men is and
Was it
women
in the end?
find themselves.
Was it
Pardon?
medication that got you better in the end, or did you just somehow figure it out for yourself and got better?
No, see, because I've got a chemical imbalance,
Or a mix?
I ended up, it's pretty hard to diagnose what I've got. I've got melancholia, which means,
Yeah.
when something sad happens, your brain releases a sad chemical. Mine was getting released 24/7, more
Wow.
or less. So I ended up, Dr. Parker, everyone didn't get it right, went to the Black Dog. He said, I was pretty suicidal. So he recommended I got 18 ECT treatments, the electronic shock treatments. And at the same time...
Oh, is that like on the side?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're untreated, look, and this is not to be scared about either. When you are, some depressions are treatment resistant.
Yeah.
And something like that can really change things around. And they use it much more overseas. It's not like one's put over the cuckoo's nest. It's not.
No, I know.
That, yeah. So then at the same time, he was fiddling around with a bunch of meds, because I have got that imbalance. I had to stop that sad chemical hitting my brain, basically. And he came up with a bit around the same time. I was sitting out the back porch a little bit after that, and all of a sudden the sky looked green and the sky looked blue and the trees looked really green. I went, shit, I think I feel what normal is. I actually
have heard from a psychiatrist I was talking to, and he said it's frowned upon now because of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but it actually does work in some things. It sort of readjusts, and not for everyone, but it is a thing that can
not
work.
for everyone, but if you're really treatment resistant, and like injury and like other illnesses can be more severe. They use it a lot quicker overseas. This is what the professors at when I was at the Black Dog told me. They believe it should, the one particular professor told me it should be used more, and she was of the firm belief that with women with postnatal depression, that it should be used much earlier in Australia as it is overseas, because the quicker you can get the bonding between the mum and the thing happening better, that would be a good thing. But it's nothing like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But I even thought that when I did, I thought, oh, Jesus, what's happening?
Yeah, when you first did it, were you scared? Tell me when you first did it. What was it? Were you, nervous?
To be honest with you, at that time, I was just hoping something worked. So
okay,
so I wasn't scared. Look, I suppose being a footballer again, I got stitched and punched and kicked, and so those type of things.
Okay.
I'm more scared of ghosts and vampires and something like that, But so I was a bit. I didn't know how I'd feel. And the only things they say that, you can get a little bit of memory loss, like a tiny bit, but mate, I bounced out of it buzzing, and so it really did take me out of my suicidal ideations, or the word I'm trying to say there. And I was in a men's group that all had gone through that, and we had similar illness. And what was one of the things that made me believe that depression, anxiety, illness, because I was with all these strangers, and when they went around the table to see how their mood was, what they felt, what they did, it was like hearing myself 20 times over. And they were businessmen all the way down to drug dealers, to every type of person. There was a wide range of character. And then I went, shit, this has to be real. So it's also good to get around people with whatever you're going through, because then they'll know that, you're a brave barger, what you're doing, keep punching and you'll march through, get help and you'll be okay. You do get through the other end. Like when you do get to the point of, you might think of self-harm, when you do get help, most, a year later, you just go, you can't even comprehend that you're even down that path almost. It becomes incomprehensible to where your thoughts had got to make you contemplate that. It's an awful, awful place to be. And, that's why we've got to get people to, get help before you get there. And if you do start to feel it, you've got to get help. And the other thing I will say, like, one thing, when I turned into recluse there for that 5 years, like, I just didn't see many mates. I wasn't doing anything except with the boys. But there was about 5 people that never gave up on me. They kept ringing, going, Wayne, come for a coffee, Wayne, come for surf, come to the footy. And I never went. I never turned up, but they kept ringing, which must have been really hard for them because they would have felt so rejected by me. But they kept that. I was so negative in my thinking that the fact they rang me just kept me going. So if people pull out of your life and you know, just keep ringing. If you lose a couple of friends, just don't do it. Just put a little note, you know, ring Mary or Johnny, you know, once every couple of weeks, or send a text. Just keep reaching out because people can go underground.
Yeah.
And even that reach out can, you know, really help. Kindness to people. I'm shocked. I know I sound like an old hippie, but one thing I've seen on the road for years, you know, good on you, bro. Peace. And the power of kindness has shocked me. The power of kindness has shocked me. Like, a lot of people are lonely. A lot of people don't have people to talk to.
Oh, absolutely.
A hello or a chat or just it's quite amazing, to be honest.
You know, I was in a supermarket in the lockdowns, right? And I got to the point I couldn't be fucked to wear a mask, and I was standing at the till, and because I like being served by humans, and I turned around and there was an old lady behind me with a mask on, and I looked down at her and I just said, "G'day, love, how you going?" And then she just nodded, and then I turned back, and then she said, "Thank you for asking." And I turned back, she said, "No one's asked me, but no one's talked to me like that, you know, this." And I thought, that's it. It's just it. And the mask didn't help because we didn't realize how much of the bottom part of our face we communicate with, even if we're not speaking. But yeah, we do see it. The loneliness is an epidemic. And yet we've got more ways to connect with people than we've ever had. You've got all the social media platforms, there's loads of them. We've all got mobile phones. We're all looking at them while you're there. For some reason, we've got all these ways to connect, and yet we're more disconnected than ever. It's remarkable, isn't it?
It is really remarkable. And, you know, but, you know, with the men's clubs, and I know, you know, country women's associations, and people congregate doing Pilates or tennis. You know, the big thing about being lonely is, you know, you kind of, in one way, you've got to get yourself up and join just some group that you're interested in, because it is really easy to get lonely. I've been there. We've all been there. And then you get social anxiety almost, and you can't get out to go and do what you should be doing. And then it can go spiral.
A lot of people had that after lockdown. A lot of people had that.
Even after the COVID lockdown, you know, like groups like Men's Sheds and Country Women's Association, even men's groups, the numbers weren't coming back because people were so used to not socialising. That's, you know, and again, with our loneliness, you know, you just got to, you know, you've got to try and fix it by, if you like art, join an art club, just something, you know.
Can I tell you something?
Out of it, really.
Yeah, that's right. When I was working with the trams, I worked in a depot that was 100, I think it was 100 or 150 years old. I mean, it was really old. I can't remember. That might be 150. It was a really old depot. And there were drivers there had been there 50 years. But one of the managers had been there 40 years. And I said to him, because it was mainly blokes worked there. There was some women, but when I worked there, it was mainly blokes. I said, and they'd hang around upstairs in the staff room together on their shift breaks and stuff. You know, they're very communal. I said to him, how many suicides has there been here in the time you've been here 40 years? And he went, none. And now these were the high suicide demographic. These were mature white males. And I theorized, and I wrote a play about this, that the reason they went is not that the men were up there crying on each other's shoulders, but you just walked in and someone go, "G'day, Mick, g'day, Mick," and they touch you on the shoulder. You had a home. You were wanted. You were needed, you know? If you needed to talk, there was someone to listen, but basically they belonged. It was like a tribe, a brotherhood. And I think this is why not one of them have committed suicide. And I do wonder in society now, because we don't have, apart from the men's shed, but for other men down, our age group and younger, do we have places where men can go, hang out, and just be with other blokes?
It really is, again, the men's groups, surf clubs, be part of a footy club. You have to seek it out. But, fortunately, even on the northern beaches here in Sydney, there's probably 8 different men's clubs for men of all ages.
Amazing.
And you get a bit of a brotherhood there, because most blokes, if you've been through some pain, mate, a lot of blokes in the clubs are there for pain too. So you'll find people that's been through the same shit you've been through.
Yeah.
And they give each other a hug. I say now, it's funny, in the old days, you used to hug women and shake hands with men. Now you shake hands with women and hug men. So that's a good thing. So it's getting out and having a dig. And I know it's really hard. And that's like, even if you've got a mate that needs some help, sometimes they'll go and book a doctor's appointment, but they'll be so bad on the day they won't go.
Yeah.
So if I try to take them. I don't care if I have to walk in and throw them over my shoulder, like jokingly, but you kind of got it. That's what happens. When you know what it's like, and then they don't go, and then you feel worse because
you're being a mate.
Yeah. So it's good to do that, and keep in contact. But yeah, the loneliness. But I know they're saying, like, at the moment, I think less marriages than anywhere in time in history, more single people.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that we're doing in society, if you look at the benchmarks for mental health, what society's preaching actually goes against the benchmarks for mental health. So in a few instances, like if you sat there and we went over, if I had the diagram in front of me, I could, because I have done this. I'll shot it to you, and you can just bring it up another time. But I want to make it right when I say it. I want it to be
fair enough.
Yeah. So that, but it's interesting. But I will get that to you.
Yeah. No. Oh, look, it's really interesting now, because from what I see, we don't seem to be able to access the suicide statistics since the COVID era. Maybe they can. I haven't heard of them, but we've had in my world, I know of 3 suicides of young men just in the past couple of weeks. 3.
Well, even down here at DY, a young bloke hung himself. I'm sorry, suicide. Because of going through to see his kids. The other thing I want to say is, like, there's plenty of, when I do my presentations, if I do a group of women or a group of men, I don't change much, because we're human in this stuff.
Yeah.
But I've done lots of men's things where, women have turned up and they're worried about how things are against men, because they're losing their sons, their partners.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Most of us are united to make everything good and great for all of us.
Yeah.
And the fact that those women come in and they don't know where to get help so we all love someone in the opposite sex in one way or the other.
Every son has a mother.
Yeah. So same with ladies, they've got to reach out. The ladies have got to reach out into friendship groups too, because loneliness, it's all of us.
Yeah, it is.
And once you start getting isolated, you think too much, and when that happens, thinking too much in hindsight, you'll end up driving yourself around the truck if you have too much time for yourself.
Yeah. Well, good on you for your work, mate. 18 years on the road, 1,000 presentations. That deserves a medal on its own, brother. That's you've taken your pain and you've gone out there and you've tried to do something. Basically, you've taken darkness and you've converted it into light, and you've tried to illuminate other people's lives. That's extraordinary work.
Well, thank you.
And I bet you hasn't made you a millionaire either. So I know that this is
no. You know what?
Passion.
I live near the beach and I don't need much. Like, one good thing about getting a bit older, I'm not out in the terps playing up, so I can live on a lean budget. But it was worth every minute. But I'd met some wonderful people on the road when I was doing it, and I knew I was doing the right thing, and it was great for me. And again, I just like to say, like, what I did, what we do compared to those people who work in community and mental health every day. I'm just a speck compared, to what they do. But yeah, so we just keep talking our mates into getting help. Take the hit. All you ladies out there too, if you're all sad out, if anyone's sad or struggling, please make your mind up to get help. I like
Yeah.
Michael and his great advice. That's what we're here for. And let's change the world together one by one.
Oh, this
by
is what's
seeking help.
happening in, just before you go, this is what's happening in Canada now. I'll just take over the comments for a sec. Depressed people get offered maids in Canada. That's
Get off it.
euthanasia. Medically assisted dying. That's the truth. We've interviewed Canadians. It's the second highest cause of death now is euthanasia. It's so if you go into a Canadian psychologist, psychiatrist, social worker, doctor, they and say you're depressed, they must offer you euthanasia, and they're legally bound. That's in Canada, so it'll probably be coming here. So that's a huge thing. There's
Well, the thing is,
Sherry. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Michael, there's treatments coming up like they're having sensation. When people get to that point, they're having great success with ketamine.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I know that, again, just chatting to the professors at the Black Dog, they say that one of them said that the ketamine will be to deep depression like that as penicillin was to infection. So hopefully science in this kind of area is backward compared to physical health. So hopefully soon, when people get like that, there will be some help so they don't feel that, and I think we're marching towards that now, which is great for especially our young.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up a few comments though from the people. So Sherry Porter spent 10 years in the darkness. I just wanted to put that up because you had the courage to post it, Sherry. So that must have been horrendous, my darling. So Craig Fisher, I find that the faster I accept my depression, the faster I can now let it go. Yeah, I do that. I used to suffer terribly from depression. I don't anymore. I seem to be able to just shove it off, I actually was telling people, if you get depressed for a long time, try see it as like an abusive partner and sort of look at it and going, I'm giving you everything. What are you giving me? Nothing. And, just to somehow trick your brain into getting past it. Ron Clark, as soon as you speak out about it, you're treated as mental and drugged up. That's why people stay silent, including myself. I'm sorry you feel that way, Ron. There's
well, I'd march with you, brother. I don't think you're weak. I think you're strong. I'd march with you any day.
Yeah. And good on you for saying it, Ron, though. This is how we have to do. We just have to basically here we go. We have to speak about it to identify the problem. Well done, Wayne. So many would appreciate giving yourself to helping to help others help ourselves. That's word is alive. I don't know who they are. Richard Ford. Yep, that's it. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks for coming on, man. There's I just want to really thank you for the duty that you've done. And I bet there's so many men out there, like you said, those two that were going to do it are still here. That's I think it's just a beautiful thing. It's a worthy life, brother. Congratulations.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for listening. That was very cathartic for me to get all that off my chest. Thank you, everybody, for saving me psychologist fees myself. Thank you. And thanks for having me, mate.
There you go. We'll send you the bill.
Sweet, mate. Sweet. It was worth it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Good luck.
No worries, guys. And this is a song called Ken's Dream. This is about a delivery driver I had a short shift with, and this was his dream. Good night, everybody.
Come Friday night, I can be carrying $5,000's worth of delivery money. That's $5,000 of the sweetest dreams, filling my soul with honey. 5,000 reasons to head to the Hume, where hidden beneath your cameras and fumes, I'd steal this truck and drive all night to you. And in his silence, that's what Ken tells me at the end of every shift. As I, with my boots a burning, am a breath away from suggesting to let's steal this truck and drive all night. Let's steal this truck and drive all night. To you, to you. And in my head I can see your lights, town after town, as we speed by 1,000 clicks ahead of the cops who no doubt will come looking for us soon. So how much of Sydney would 5 grand buy me? How much of Sydney would 5 grand buy? The best meal in town in a classy hotel, where a pretty girl would lie so well that I could believe just for a moment that I hadn't paid for her smile. Yeah, Mike, I'll tell you, for a lie that's sweet, I'd steal this truck and I'd drive all night. I'd steal this truck and I'd drive all night. I'd steal this truck and I would drive all night. To you, even though there is no you. Even though there is no you. And on Friday evening in total silence, this is what Ken always tells me as I, with my boots a-burning, singing too. Let's steal this truck and drive all night. Let's steal this truck and drive all night. Oh, come on, Ken, let's steal this truck and let's drive all night.